What's up, everybody? You're listening to another episode of the SignatureCAST, where we talk bodybuilding, business, and everything in between. And today is an amazing in-between. I am joined by Kas Luna, one of our yoga instructors here, and Prema Michelle, the head of our yoga program, also known as Michelle Peterson. Now, we're going to start off right there because I think the people at home and people don't know. So how did you gain the, I don't want to call it a title, but the name Prema? What does that signify in the world of yoga? And just tell the viewers at home a little bit about yourself and what's new in the life of Prema Michelle.
Oh, okay. So Prema is a name given to me by my teacher who, he's my spiritual teacher, and the meaning is divine love.
Wow.
So,
See, I didn't know that. I just thought it was one of those like rankings in life, you know, like doctor or, you know, CEO Warren Feldman, you know, something along the lines of that. So, so there was a name given by your teacher. Now, did you have to accomplish a certain hours of practice or study to accomplish that? Or was it just something that he or she bestowed upon you when they felt, ready?
Yeah. Wow. That's a really big question, actually. So you don't have to have, if I complete 25,000 hours of yoga, I get a spiritual name.
Gotcha.
I'm worthy. But there is like that. You do have to have like a certain amount, as Kas knows, of practice, so that you can attain a spiritual teacher.
Almost like an understanding.
Yeah, so that you can, you have the eyes to perceive the spiritual teacher. And then in psychology, the way people understand like self-actualization is the highest human potential. So how physically fit they're most physically fit, they're most mentally fit. And self-actualization is like the term of like you've reached your highest human potential.
Very
and
cool.
Spirituality, which is like different from religion, it would be self-realization. So usually the spiritual teacher or guru is not self-proclaimed at all. It's not a cult. You don't give them any money or anything. But they have reached that high level, the highest level of self-realization. So when they look at the students that come to them and can perceive them, they look into the quality of their heart, and then they pick the name based on that. And
that's great. No, that's very cool. And it's one of those questions that needs a long explanation because, some people are like, well, why is her? I thought her name was Michelle. It's like, no, this is actually something I'm sure that you're very proud of that you were given. That you can hold close to yourself, and now you're very proud to tell your students, no, my name is Prema now, and this is why. And so congratulations on that. That's really great.
It's not becoming like a different person. It's just like deepening.
Yeah,
like a deepening of who you are. And here's the cool thing. One last thing on it is that whoever uses the name, like Kas has been using it almost since I've received it, is that every time she says Prema, Kas gets the blessing of divine love also. Like that, the Sanskrit is imprinted in her on a cellular being. So she gets the blessing as well.
Well, Kas, thank you also for being on. So I would just love to start off with, tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you been practicing? I know you've been here for about a year, but I'm sure your story is much, much larger than that. So just tell the people at home a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually started practicing, of what I can remember. There wasn't like a specific date, but what I can remember, I started taking classes here at Signature in 2017. So I was taking classes, of course, with Michelle, some other instructors that were here at the gym, and it was my first real introduction to the practice. It was, it takes time. I don't know how to explain it. When I first got into it, it was just, interesting because it was very different than what I did out there, at the track or, lifting weights. And my whole life, I've pretty much been into fitness. I've actually been a member of Signature since I was like 13. So, I've tried, everything I feel that you can, rowing, running, weightlifting. So yoga was definitely very different for me. Practicing since 2017. Then I went to kind of study abroad in a sense for about 2 years. So I took my practice, online. I would just watch videos, things like that. And then when I finally came back home around 2020, I would follow all the stuff that we would put on the Instagram, take some classes that Michelle also put up on YouTube. And then around 2021, after taking classes here, again, I decided that I wanted to do a teacher training, and I did that with Michelle here at the studio.
Now she wants to call me Michelle.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just nervous.
okay.
I'm nervous.
No,
It's
I'm
okay.
teasing you.
No, so yeah, I did
I
my
was
training.
Michelle at the time when you
At
started.
the time, yeah, that's true. Okay. So yeah, I did my training with Prema, and I started teaching around September of last year, and so it's just been a year now.
Very cool. That's awesome. I love that you touched all different aspects of, health and wellness and fitness. That's one of the things we always touch here on the SignatureCAST is how has this health and fitness lifestyle, molded your life. And so I want to touch on that a little bit because as you had mentioned, you studied under Prema and now you are teaching yourself. How has that molded maybe your physical state, but also your outlook on life and all that type of stuff? Because it is not just like someone doing bodybuilding. Let's say, okay, you're just physically, you're becoming very regimented and determined to do this exact result. But I feel like yoga and the practice of yoga is a lot more in depth, and it's not just physical, but mental, emotional, spiritual, and all that stuff. So how has working under Prema and being here, teaching now, how has that changed your outlook on life and all that type of stuff?
Wow. So I think definitely since I started my training and now being a teacher, it's given me the ability to, I take a pause because there's a lot. And like you said, it does go more than just that physical level. Of course, that we always aspire to improve in that. And I think as just being someone who's been into fitness pretty much my whole life, I always seek improvement in that. But it's given me the opportunity to kind of just take a pause and, when I'm in my class or even in life, I'm able to, appreciate where I am in my life, appreciate even the things that I feel like I need to change. Because like you said, we always, try to aspire to do more, be more disciplined. And that's all well and good because that's going to bring us to a higher state of where we want to be. But I think that also appreciating where we are and whether your practice or your workout regimen gives you the opportunity to just be patient as well and have some compassion for yourself and where you are and what stage you are.
I love that. You're definitely living in the present is something that we I think as a society as a whole forget to do. Yeah. But Prema, hard-hitting question.
Oh, boy.
How long have you been the director here at Signature Fitness?
Oh, that's easy.
Because this has been a long time, right?
Yeah, since August of 2017.
Since 2017. And now how has that changed you? I mean, obviously, even from a business perspective, because I know you've had some personal development and teaching and schooling and all that type of stuff. But obviously, along with this yoga journey, and so you've been so 2017. So now we're going about almost 6 years now, right?
Yeah.
27. So wow.
Well, it was the end. Yeah.
So it's the
August.
end. Okay, so we're at least at 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're almost at 6. You're right.
That's
Great.
awesome.
We're still in 2022.
Yeah, 2022. So once we hit 2023, we'll almost be there. But either way, it's been a long journey. So you've been the director since 2017.
Yeah.
And how have you seen the yoga program change and develop here, and where do you want to see it moving forward? And obviously, getting great teachers like Kas here. I'm sure we're trying to grow. But what do you see for the future here?
Yeah, we're so grateful to have Kas. She's like a dream student, so open and receptive to the teachers, to the teachings, and the teachers, and now just so open and receptive to her students and to the teaching experience. And I love what she said about being where you are and being okay with it, even when things aren't going great, even if they feel stagnant. It's just being present and accepting yourself in that moment really helps for what's to come, because we don't know what's around the corner. Mm-hmm. And that's how it was when I first started here. This gym is so vibrant, and I've been in other large gyms in the past, and I have to say this gym has such great energy and is so vibrant and alive. And under the guidance of Warren, the owner, I have to say, this
faithful leader.
Shout out to Warren.
We have really flourished under his. It all starts from the top, like who owns and oversees the place. And so when I came, yoga was a very it was an okay program, and we had some teachers here. I remember the props being in the corner, like on the floor, and it was just a room. It was just a room, and over the years, just as all corners of this gym have improved. I mean, you've made some amazing improvements as well.
Lots of sweat and tears.
Lots of sweat and tears. Mine were just like lots of ohms. But we've developed such an incredible program. I have to say, our staff now, we had a whole new yoga teacher change this past year. Kas is the lead teacher. And then we have a staff of new teachers in, and they're incredible. And each one is very diverse and has a different offering. And there's really something for everyone in this in this gym. But I have to say, at Signature, this is truly a fitness and wellness center. The energy here is really unmatched. It's great. Isn't it the best in Northern Jersey?
It's unlike, for so many reasons, which we don't have to go into.
Yeah.
Good and bad. Let's be honest.
Of course.
But
we all have growing pains.
Yes, and
right.
Signature definitely has developed into its own unique space.
Yeah.
Its own unique energy. You have people from all walks of life here. Yeah. Obviously, the fact that our yoga program is growing and as large as it is a testament to that. Yeah. But we have people from 13 to 90 that are members here.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing, and the fact that all of them can come take a yoga class is pretty amazing too. And that's kind of the next question I want to move into is
go ahead.
Do I have prerequisites I need to take a yoga class? You know what I mean? Like,
I've got a good one.
Do I have to, stretch out and get a little more limber before I come in, or is the door open to everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. But Will, first, can you do a handstand?
Definitely not.
Yeah, no, you're not invited.
Oh, come on.
I'm joking. The youngest member is 13 to 90, but I got to tell you, we did the kids yoga camp.
Oh,
this
that's
summer.
right. That's right. Yeah.
So our youngest little camper was 4.
Wow.
Yeah, Amalia, who's like the cutest ever. And they really got it. Like, they love those poses, those natural movements. It was wonderful. We'll have a kids program coming up, which we can talk about later. But to answer your question,
I'm going to pause you right there for a second. I'm sorry. Why did they do so well? I think it's because society hasn't stained them yet. A 4-year-old is open to the world. They're open to ideas. They're open to change. So, and how important is it as our job, molding the future, to have these children and adolescents be open-minded, welcoming to everyone. Yoga is a discipline as well. Disciplined, hardworking. I love that. I think that's so great.
Yeah, that's well said, Will. To add to that, I mean, I'll give you the example of Amelie in, at the end they got frames and they painted their frames. And then I took like a bunch of pictures the day before, and some of the pictures, the kids did yoga poses, right?
Okay.
Like you would see on Instagram, like a yogi in a yoga pose. So they all did their yoga poses, and then there were like group shots and friend shots, and they all got to pick out which picture they wanted to put in the frame. And Amelie, along with most of the kids, wanted to put the picture in the frame for their memory of them just arms around another kid. They wanted to put the picture of
with them friends and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Instead of them showing off a pose, which to me was like everything. And it just shows like the innocence of these little ones and how it's just being together that really matters, which I think our students come to realize when they come into the yoga studio, that just being together is so much. Like, as Kas was saying, I'm sure
that sense of community.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely feel it. And that's something I really loved about the studio and the space that we've created is that, you know, you walk into a classroom and, you know, we know each other's names and hey, how have you been? Or like if we haven't seen each other in some time, we catch up. I really appreciate that sense of community and it also like that unity that we have when we're moving together. It just creates such a much more special place.
Definitely.
And our family's growing.
I love it. But sorry, I know I took us off track, but back to the original question. I can't do a handstand, so I guess I can't do yoga. So is there a prerequisite, or from what I understand, and we'll get into remember that breathing thing we did? We'll talk about that in a sec. But so for anyone who wants to come do yoga, what do they need? What is it? Is it just an open mind?
An open mind, literally an open mind. Just come in and be open to yourself and welcome yourself as you are. We have everything in the studio. We have mats, we have yoga props. You don't have to be physically fit or of a certain height and weight to practice. You don't have to be a certain age, right? You just come in and then you do what you can, right? And I'm sure Cass has her own thoughts on that. What do you think, Cass?
But like you guys are saying, an open mind. I think that yoga is for everyone and everyone's for yoga. Like it's accessible to everybody, you know, 13 to 90.
yeah, definitely. No, I love that. And I'm going to touch on the story that Prema knows that we're going to touch on in a second here is being one of the managers here with this, you know, 8,000 members, 55,000 square feet, Signature Fitness, New Jersey, 471 Cortlandt Street. Being someone here is very stressful. You know, we deal with different personalities every single day, different issues, different problems, and we're really trying to be problem solvers, like on the fly all the time. And not to mention taking in all of that negative energy all the time. And so I remember I came to Prema once and I said, I need to breathe. I need to relax. And it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. Like, in life, best experiences is being able to just sit down in a room. We were across from each other and we didn't do anything except I just sat there. I listened. She said, breathe this way, breathe that way. There was no one else. And for that, what was it? Maybe 10 minutes, something along that.
Like 20 minutes.
20 minutes. There was nothing else going on in the world. And I literally, if we want to just talk physically, when I walked out, my muscles were relaxed. My blood pressure was back to normal. I felt like I had like oxygenated my body. Yeah. And then just to talk from the other's perspective, I definitely felt enlightened. I don't want to use the word above everyone else because I think that's the wrong, how do I want to say? I felt elevated to where the negative energy that was coming my way couldn't affect me anymore.
His aura.
And it was so great. Just in 20 minutes, it was just like, I feel great. And it's so cool because I think we're seeing that more now in the mainstream. People are like, even at, you know, Fortune 500 companies, in their training, we want you to meditate for, 15, 20 minutes of the day. We want you to take time just to be with yourself, no cell phone, no connection to the outside world. And if you guys could speak on that, because I had one experience for 20 minutes and it was just like life-changing. Yeah. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But have you seen that? I'm sure you see it every day in your classes, So if you guys want to touch on how the importance of being by yourself or just with someone in silence is.
Yeah, absolutely. Cass, do you want to?
I feel like definitely that moment of stillness, and that's what I love. Usually when we begin a class, we give ourselves the opportunity to just take our seat and really be still. And I feel like for most people, that's probably the first time in their day or week that they've had the opportunity to just sit with themselves and begin to notice what's going on in their bodies and in their heads, and notice the pace of their thoughts. I feel like just having those moments of clarity, like you said, it's not like you feel like you're above anyone else, but you feel like that negative energy can't penetrate you because you found this internal stillness and peace that no one can shake because you found it on your own. So yeah. And there's also like it's really hard if someone
you know, like someone heard this and they're like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to sit down for 5 minutes and close my eyes. And they're going to be like, this is really, really hard.
Yeah.
I can hear the drilling going on outside my house. My kids are downstairs screaming. Like, this doesn't feel peaceful at all. Or the eyes are closed and maybe you're able to tune out the outside, but then the thoughts are like, what? One of the beautiful things about that experience is that we got to do it again together. So together, we're just better in general. And when you're starting your yoga practice and you're figuring out how do I breathe? How do I do this yogic breathing? We can read books about it and we can watch YouTubes about it, but there is nothing like the teaching of teacher to student, and they're equal. Right? It's not teacher-student. It's teacher to student. There's a transference of energy from the teacher's voice and the energy of the teacher to this that can guide the student to that place. So it's important to find a good teacher to show you the way. And then it makes it a little easier when you want to do it on your own. You have already, on a very cellular level, on a very spiritual level as well, like the teachings already, so then it's easier to do the pranayama, the breathing exercises, and to do the meditation. And I think that day, you hit on it, you were able to pinpoint my nervous system was, when we say healing, like come to a restorative yoga workshop, come heal your body. We don't mean we're going to heal the bloody arm or the bruised hip. We're going to calm the nervous system. And when the nervous system is calm, guess what happens? A great healing takes place, right? And the parts of the organs get to regenerate more efficiently. Yeah,
sorry, I just remembered something. So what we're basically, for everyone listening at home or who's watching this YouTube, what we're really talking about here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that your mind, and your spirit, if you want to say, it controls everything.
That's right.
Right? And so everything that we see in the physical world is controlled by everything that's, in between our ears, and up in space, or whatever you want to call it, right? However spiritual you want to get about it. But we subconsciously are running this machine, right? And if we can learn to tap into the control system, right? The little board we got here, we can control everything. And I've had a lot of interesting experiences in my life where I've either pushed myself to an extreme physical feat, where I think we tap into a different part of ourselves that we don't normally do. So whether it's in extreme stress or in extreme relaxation, we can do a pretty amazing things. But it reminded me of a story, and you might know the name of it. I can't remember the name. So as I had mentioned, we had Devin Larratt, he was the best arm wrestler in the world, come on our podcast a few weeks ago, and he had his wife practices yoga, and he had this experience where he says it's the best arm wrestling match he ever had in his life. It was a guy against Ron Bath. It's up in Canada, and he said he finally wins the match. It's like best of 6, and he sits down and he's just finally calming down, and he said it felt like an explosion in his, like, the center of his being in his back. And it was just this energy explosion. She had a name for it. I can't remember what it was called, but it was something that, like, I guess people try to achieve, like, in their life, once in their life. I'll find out the name for it.
Samadhi?
Maybe. I'm going to find out the name. I'm going to find out the name because he does mention it in some videos. And his wife is so jealous. She goes, people practice for 50 years and they never experience what you just experienced.
Yeah, it's like a level of bliss.
Yeah, and it was just that he said it was the most intense feeling he ever felt in his life. He goes, it wasn't pain, but it was as if, like, the energy of, like, the universe exploded from the center of his spine, like, out throughout his whole body. And he's like, I'm so jealous of this. But what I'm getting at is, we've had people who've healed themselves of diseases, and we're not doctors, but they've healed themselves of ailments and all these types of things by just positive affirmations and sitting in silence and allowing yourself to heal. And I think that's what's so cool about yoga and meditation and just being with a teacher and being silent and literally listening into yourself. And I think if we can all do that, like think about how much healthier we'll be as a society.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's, what was his name?
Devin Larrett. Devin.
So I think what Devin had experienced was a level of bliss, that ecstasy that like runs through the body, this, that comes from being so present and in the moment. Like nothing was more important than what he was doing at that in those moments.
Yeah.
And he just achieved, like, found the center of his balance. That was, and yogis do can spend. But also, I mean, you can find that just from, like, being so immersed in playing the guitar. Whatever your flow is, you know, you're a bodybuilder, Will. So, like, when you're lifting an intense weight, you know, I don't have no idea what that feels like. But I imagine that you're thinking about your arms, your chest, your breath, how you push the weight away from the body or pick it up. You're not thinking about, I wonder what I'm going to have for lunch later, right? You're not thinking about
totally, the whole world goes like this.
Yeah. You're like honed in. And that in of itself, that moment of presence is yoga, right? It's like your mind and your body are united in exactly that, whatever that is that you're focused on. So people can find those states from whatever art form or whatever they are completely immersed in. For others, it's giving. It's like serving others and like karma yoga. And you can find, you can achieve that bliss from actually just finding a really great interaction between yourself and someone else when it's all for the higher good. Yeah.
Very cool. So now, Kas, you said you did some different forms of fitness prior.
Yeah.
So like you said, some weightlifting and this, that, whatever. Has that aided you in certain ways in your yoga practice, whether it's, you know, Prema making you do handstands or whatever it may be?
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You don't.
It's
have to
super
do
impressive,
handstands.
by the way. I've seen her do them, and I'm just like,
Yeah, it's so very graceful. You know, it's nothing
Very.
too crazy about it. Yeah, no, 100%. Definitely, I feel like one of the biggest things that has allowed me to implement certain things that I've learned with my own working out was rowing. I used to be a rower in high school, and for Belleville, actually. So yeah, it's intense, man. Like rowing, it's, you know, you're there in the boat with your teammates, like 6 minutes, going as hard as you can. Probably, yeah, definitely the most painful workouts I've, you know, done in my life. But it's given me, one of the biggest things is it's shown me discipline, for sure. And also that we can't be limited by what we think that our bodies can do. We definitely just have to go for it and push the body. And even a gentle push. Now I think with yoga, the way that's transformed is, you know, I don't have to kill myself every time that I want to do a practice. But I know that I am much more resilient than I can imagine that I am. So yeah, I feel like that has helped me, you know, and running as well. We were doing some running for some time, me and Prema. And yeah, it's that focus, that steady like pacing as well. Yeah, it's just allowed me to do more than I thought I could.
Sure. That's great. Yeah. Let me ask both of you, and Prema, we'll start with you. How has now, so you've been teaching yoga here for, you know, we said around 5 years, but how long have you personally just been practicing yoga?
Yeah. Since I believe the beginning of 2009.
Okay, so since 2009 you started.
Actually, sorry. Yeah, like steadily when it made sense to me.
Okay.
Practically 2009.
So let's say 2000.
I tried it
Okay,
many
so
times before.
so around 2009ish, you started doing this on a more consistent basis.
Right.
That being said, how do you think it's changed you in dealing with, you know, day-to-day problems and changes? Do you approach things differently I know the answer because we've had these conversations with the people at home.
What are the answers, Will?
Right? But how has it, for the people listening at home, how has it changed how you deal with the day-to-day problems and changes, and how has it changed your, we'll keep it simple, like problem solving and day-to-day thinking about your, how you go about your day?
Yeah. Well, let me preface what I'm going to answer by saying it is by no means perfect. I have not achieved sainthood yet, not even close. But I can say that over the past decade and a third, I guess, I've been teaching. It'll be 12. It's 12 years now that I've been teaching, so since 2010, and practicing. I really deepened my practice about 4 years ago. So while I was here,
okay,
and I can say I'm still the same person, physically, mentally. Mentally has changed big time. Physically has changed big time. So some of my students and family, of course, you're aging backwards. What is it called? Reverse aging.
Yeah.
So it does change you physically, but I think the best changes have been that you really do, although we all have our triggers, right? And so it is by no means perfect, but I do think that one thing that continually what has gotten better is that you evolve. You keep evolving in the practice, and the changes can be very subtle. And for a while, it might feel like you're not making any change at all. And that's the part that when everyone wants to give up. Right? But I love that quote. Who was it? I think you love Bruce Lee. Was it Bruce Lee who said the difference between a black belt and a white belt is a black belt never gave up?
I wouldn't be surprised if you said that, so I'll give you that one. But that's a great quote.
Yeah. And so I think the yogi who achieves self-realization versus the yogi who doesn't is the yogi who didn't give up, right? So it's even so when people don't feel a change, their practice is the same, stagnant, maybe boring, it's easy to want to give up. But I think when you go through that boredom, you move through that plateau. I tried running for a while, which was not for me anymore. That was from, early 20s time. So, but your reactions are a lot slower, and you move from a purposeful place. When things around you aren't going the way you'd hoped that they would be going, or people are coming at you and saying the things that you wish that they weren't, there is more of a calm. There is more of a calm reserve, and you're able to decide what's important. You're able to, and what isn't, and what to filter out. And then you can approach whatever is going on around you with a more focused and calm way. And, like I said, of course, you do have those moments. I have those moments, I can say, when I am triggered, when someone says something that will fire me up. But that becomes less and less as I practice. And also I'm able to identify it ooh, that's trigger. And then when you identify it, it has less power. And then it might not necessarily be a trigger for you next time. So there's an incredible healing that comes as you evolve over time with continual practice.
And Cass, how has it affected you? I'm sure it's similar, but
no. So when you posed that question, it made me think about what you said earlier. How running the gym sometimes can be very stressful. You're always problem solving, always trying to fix what's wrong. It's similar to what I go through in my day job. So me and my family, we own an optical, and so it is the same thing: problem solving, business, and sometimes dealing with the public cannot be the easiest thing. But something that I noticed transform, especially during my training, was that this ability to be calmer and be a little bit more quiet. And sometimes you'd be surprised. I give people the floor. I hear them out. And even just giving people space to voice their concerns or just even speak to you, however, gives them the ability to let out whatever they want to let out. But when your energy stays calm and reserved, they go down there and they meet you there. So it's nice because it's like if you're not giving play back, it's not going to continue.
Yeah.
So
No, I love that. So how do I say this? Being a person of my stature, there comes, people assume that I'm going to be, I'm 6'2", I'm like 350 pounds. People think I'm going to be like an aggressive person, right? And Prema knows I'm probably the complete opposite
Big
of that.
Teddy bear.
But with that, even my girlfriend sometimes will be like, well, why didn't you yell at that guy? Why did you and all those types of things that everyone would associate with like a person of my stature. And I love doing that exact thing you just said, Cass, is I'll have people come up to me in the gym, and I just had this exactly happened. Someone was personal training someone who wasn't a personal trainer here, and that's not allowed, and And I walk up to them, and I was just like, hey, blank, I just want to let you know we're not allowed to do that here, and, are you training this person? And they just started, what do you mean? I'm not training anybody. Why are you getting in my face? And I just said, okay, so, and eventually, I know this might even not sound the best, but man, it feels really good to make someone, I don't want to say make them look bad, to make them realize that they are just being completely crazy. Yeah. And it almost as if, as you said, but the good part about it, the teaching part about it, is rather than exploiting that, what you're doing is you're giving them the opportunity to better themselves in that moment. Yeah. And it's hard for people. I still struggle with that all the time. As a whole, I do a really good job of when something like that's happening. That's why I had to do those 20 minutes, because I just bottled it inside. I needed to just, release it. Yeah. But I'll just, take a second, just breathe a little bit. Okay, so we're going to deal with this way, instead of just being like, get out. But I think this is why everyone listening at home really needs to, it doesn't have to be yoga. I'm sure we would all love it to be yoga.
Come to yoga.
Come to yoga. Come to yoga at Signature Fitness in Belmont, New Jersey. But what the overarching idea I think that we're touching on today is that you, one, have control over everything. Mindfulness. Thank you. Secondly, once you have mindfulness, everything you do, you're projecting energy onto others, right? And so if you can control yourself and what you put out into the world, every interaction you have, every confrontation, every moment of happiness, whatever it is, you can now enjoy and experience that with everyone around you, right? And I'm sure there's all terms for all of what I'm saying and everything like that.
I think you're doing great.
But how great is it that we have the ability? And I think that's something we're losing, and that's what I wanted to touch on. And I wanted to see, because we talk about this I just did a podcast at our block party, and we talked a lot about social media and how it's changing the bodybuilding industry and stuff like that. But I think it's negatively affecting all of us because we're so disconnected from ourselves, from our peers, especially, we just went through in 2020 with, this whole pandemic and COVID and all that stuff. And never have we ever, I feel like we've ever been more disconnected, not just from ourselves, but from the people around us, from our community, Cass, that you were talking about. So what do you guys think is the next step moving towards a more unified and inclusive self and people around us?
That's a good question.
So thinking about that, and like you said, the pandemic really put a damper on all our lives, and it's really changed the course on how we interact with others. I think that everyone's kind of in this heightened state of stress, even if it's not conscious, really. But I think that the most important thing, first and foremost, is, like you said, a lot of people go to social media and we kind of just see what everybody else is up to and think like, oh, maybe if I do this, I'll look like this, or maybe if I try this, I'll be able to attain that. It is all well and good because there's a lot of information out there that can be useful. But I think, and personally, this is what I've experienced, is that first really get to know yourself. I think that like even having those moments of 5 minutes of stillness gives you the ability to know, what does your body need? What do you need? And because we're always trying to change something or improve on ourselves. And like I said, that is okay. And I do that myself. But I think that what you want to achieve is that love and care for yourself as you are. Have compassion for yourself, and it looks different for everyone, so I can't be like, oh, this is what you should do so you can get there. But that's why it's most important to get to know where you are and acknowledge yourself, really. Yeah. I don't know.
No, that's a great, I don't think there is an exact answer is what we're getting at. And Prema, for you, I would love for you to touch on that. Also having been, you have a family, you have children. How have you tried to utilize the knowledge, everything you have to help mold yourself, but obviously now your family as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, the yoga for me at this point is, there was a time when there was like yoga and then yoga life and then family life. But I have to say over the years, they've merged and like, there's just a life, a conscious life. And so I think in my children, I can tell them, try this, do this. But nothing is going to teach them more than my actions. So that's where consciousness or mindfulness really comes in handy, because everything that I'm doing, they're watching. I have 3 kids, and even my teenager is watching. And that came to light for me a few weeks ago when she said, Mom, I went in, she was looking for a job to pay for the insurance on her car. And she said, I went in there, Mom, and I was so nervous, but I went in there and I asked for the owner, and then I talked to him just the way you talk. And I got the job.
Nice. That's fantastic.
Like on the spot. So I was like, yes. So I think she went in there, she had an intention, and she knew the person to talk to, and then she knew how to ask for what she wanted, with assertiveness, but not an aggression, right? And to be able to say what she had to offer. So, and that goes with my little ones too. They're going to eat how I eat. So and not because, this is what you're going to eat. This is we don't do that at my home. We have options, almost like we're a restaurant, a vegan restaurant, but we have options. And then, and the kids, like they have control over what they eat. Of course, they love fries and a great Beyond Burger. But they also like the way they eat is super mindful. They have broccoli and raw carrots. They love raw carrots. They won't eat beets or like kale. But I think the kale, it's like their molars. So it's just like, it's become more of a lifestyle.
Sure.
And you can see it the most in how they interact with others. Because that's really what we're doing, right? When we're even not having kids but being around other children or even the parents of children, right? How you treat them has a ripple effect. So how you treat your children has a ripple effect. That's how they're going to go out into the world and treat others. And so I think it's such a privilege to raise children. It's such a privilege to be a yoga teacher. Like it's a service for me. I'm like, oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
love it.
I genuinely hope that, those moments that they have of connection, connecting to themselves before they go out and connect with others, that connection to themselves will affect how they go out and connect to others. And they'll do it from a more mindful place, from a calm place. Yeah. And so it's the same, how we treat our children is how they're going to treat other people. How we serve our students is how they're going to go out and serve other people, and the more you practice it, the more you practice anything, the better you're going to get at it.
For sure. Right? And I find it really interesting. People think, when, for example, I just gave a motivational speech to the Glen Ridge football team.
Cool.
And a lot of people are like, oh, well, you got to go there and you got to schedule the time. And like, you have to teach these yoga classes. And I'm like, I don't think people understand that by you doing this, I almost feel like I'm the selfish one because I'm gaining so much out of what I'm doing, right? Yes. Whether it's the energy I'm getting from the people or the experience or the look on the people's faces when they're leaving happy or motivated or whatever it may be. It's like, you might think that I'm the one doing the work. Really, I'm the one like gaining something here, right?
They're giving you the gift of listening to you. I went, and for some people who might think like, oh, yoga, this is a bunch of hula baloo. I was at Van Vleck Gardens in Montclair a couple of weeks ago, and it was a room full of lawyers. And I was going there to teach them 20 minutes of yoga and meditation. And when I walked in, the energy was like, lawyerish.
Like scatterbrain lawyerish, yeah.
Yeah, like heightened, what's to come. But I got to tell you that guiding them through that 20 minutes and then seeing them open their eyes and the way they looked and looked at me after the session, they got so much from it and they were so peaceful. You could hear a pin drop. But the way I felt in my car driving home was like, wee!
Yeah.
So I know what you're saying. It felt so good to help.
Yeah, because even though you have to expend energy and it takes your time, it's
totally.
Like you're getting it back tenfold. 100%.
Yeah.
Cass, so you've been teaching here now for how long?
A year.
A year.
Yeah.
Do you plan on continuing teaching?
Oh, 100%.
So do you think, as Prema has said, her life, yoga life, and her original, we'll just say normal life, kind of are molding into one? Do you find that that's happening in your own life as well?
Yeah. And I think you can't stop it. It's just, it's like a snowball effect, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So, yeah, and I wouldn't want to stop it, honestly. I feel like I can't complain, of what's come to my life since I've taken on the practice on a more serious level. I love to share it with my friends and my family. I love to talk about it and just be able to like take it on and see it. There's so many opportunity in it as well. Opportunity in the sense, like you said, just being able to reach people. It has a healing effect on you, really. And I think that I'm blessed to be able to offer that up to anyone who wants to get it.
Good. Guys, she's going to be here. They're not going anywhere. So since you guys aren't going anywhere, what's new? What's going to be new in the yoga studio here at Signature Fitness? Do we have anything new and exciting happening?
We do. We're in the middle of painting the yoga studio. It should be done today. The last coat is going on. It's a beautiful, beautiful white. A great reflective color for all those rainbows that come through the windows, those little prisms. So not only do we have a new space, we have a wonderful staff of teachers. We have new workshops coming up for the fall. This Sunday, we're doing a fall retreat. I think by the time we get this posted, it'll be after, but we'll be doing a couple more for sure. In addition to that, we, oh my gosh, what is new at the yoga studio? We have kids yoga sessions coming up right after the holidays, so in January. Cass, what else?
Social media.
That's right.
Thank you. I believe it's going to be at Signature Yoga. We'll see how we can make that work with what's out there already. But we'll have our own Instagram page that you can follow us at to see, meet our staff and see what's new at the studio from moment to moment. What else is new? What else are we doing? Let me see.
We got new mats.
New mats. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Hey, that's a big deal.
That is a big
deal.
You will not slip on those mats.
You will not slip. You will not slip. They're great grip. They're high quality. I mean, Warren he definitely went out for us. We got Jade Yoga mats, which are incredible non-grip mats. So at Jade Yoga Mat.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Sponsor us.
Really nice ones. The whole aesthetic of the room. Our students have walked into the room and they're like, this place has really changed. It's like a whole new space. It should be ready, everything, by Sunday, but there'll be little pieces added to it. So the space feels great. The teachers are vibrant and ready to share their offerings. great new teachers. And we have a great fall program with a weekly yin yoga class, restore sessions being added. Oh, and taking the training a little bit deeper, I'll be doing an Ayurveda training, counselor training. So for the next year and a half, 2 years, I'll be immersed in that. And so we'll be offering some Ayurvedic trainings in the studio as well, which is, the sister science of yoga. So deepening the practice and the lifestyle.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited. We've touched on so much here today, but I think the most important thing that people have to do is they have to come here and experience it for themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Come to our class.
Yes.
I mean, it's gonna, and we've spoken a lot about like what it does to you mentally, but the practice also has a lot of physical benefits to it, and I like to think about it. If you're not looking to just be a full-blown yogi, that's not necessary.
It's not,
but it's like a tune-up, how I see it. It's a weekly tune-up for your body. So come to a class, your day off,
Yeah. Even if it's like one class a week.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Yeah, and I like that tune-up. I use that sometimes, right? Yeah. It's like a little, a 45-minute class is a little like body tune-up just for stretching. And some people say, oh, I can't go because I can't touch my toes or I can't stand on my head. And it's like, it's okay. You don't have to. Yeah. That's why you come.
Oh, and to be honest, some levels of yoga I've watched, like, for example, I don't know the name of the pose, but when you're just like kind of lunging forward and your arms are open, staying in that, warrior pose. There you go. Great. Just staying in that pose for like an extended period of time is quite difficult. So like people who think that yoga isn't a workout, I'm sure there are levels of yoga that can be very strenuous and very, you're going to build some muscle in these yoga classes.
Oh, yeah. Even in a beginner's yoga class, you're going to build muscle in that warrior pose. And the funny thing is you don't even really feel like you're working that hard. You're just breathing as the teacher
Speak for yourself.
Shows you. Well, in the beginning.
In the beginning.
It doesn't really feel like that. It feels attainable. You're making the shape with your body and you're like, this isn't so hard. But if you keep coming, right, and you're like, okay, some people after their first class, they leave, they're drenching. They keep coming though, because even though they're sweating, it's not like it's painful for them or anything. It's just moving the body.
Not super strenuous, obviously.
Yeah,
I'm kidding, guys. Come try a class.
But it does. It starts to change your physical body, and you're like, whoa. How did that happen? Where did those muscles come from?
Sure.
It changes it in a very unexpected way.
That's fantastic. Well, for everyone listening at home, guys, please come down to Signature Fitness. If you want to sign up for the yoga classes and you are a member, you go right on our app and sign up. But if you see Prema or Kas, please stop them. I'm sure they are more than open to help you sign up, to talk about yoga, to talk about just bettering yourself in so many ways. I'd like to thank both of you so much for coming on to the SignatureCAST. Sure. This was definitely a very unique episode, and I think all of our listeners at home are going to get a lot out of it. So, Prema, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Kas, thank you so much. Guys, that is another episode of the SignatureCAST where we talk bodybuilding, business, and everything in between. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Have a good one.